Today we're going to be discussing replacing a sensor on a GX 2001. This can be found on page 41 of your manual as illustrated here. We're going to remove the sensor retainers, expose the sensors, and you'll be able to pull out whichever sensor, if not all of them, that you'll need to replace. You'll need your 2001, the Phillips screwdriver, flat blade screwdriver, and a Q-tip, and the sensors that you may need to replace. So first what we're going to do is we're going to back off the two screws holding the retainer down. And then there are two clips, one towards the front, one towards the back, that you can take your flat blade and pry those two apart to pop it off while still keeping the sensor, the filter covers and the screws in, the retainer, set that aside. And sometimes you may see that the sensor may stick to the bottom here as illustrated. You can just pull that off, pop it in. And what you have is you have your oxygen sensor, your LEL combustible sensor, carbon monoxide sensor, and hydrogen sulfide sensor. And depending upon which sensor you may need to replace, you just simply remove the sensor and put the new sensor in. As the sensors are removed, you can also tell they retain the same color consistency, along with two arrows that are located on the H2S and the CO sensor that coincide with the arrows that are and color that are on the sockets. And a good thing to note as you're replacing the sensor is to see if any of these sensors that are electrochemical, which are your oxygen, CO, and H2S sensors. They have a diluted sulfuric acid solution inside, much like a car battery, and over time it can burn through the membrane and cause the acid to leak out of the sensor. If that happens, that acid can get onto the sensor board, causing all kinds of problems. So as you tend to replace the sensor, you want to look for any physical damage done by possibly leakage of acid or any dirt or contaminant that may be around these contacts that are located here that brings the voltage to the sensor. And if you do see anything, you may have to send that in for service if there has been a leakage that has occurred. Or if it's just simply dirt, you can take a Q-tip or a toothbrush and simply brush away all the contaminant from the gold contacts that would bring the voltage to the sensor to make a clean contact. And then once you identify it, you remove the old sensors, take your new sensor, lining it with the arrows and the color, sometimes they can give you a little bit of a hard time. You simply put the sensors back in there. And important to note with the oxygen sensor is, I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit on the sensor. Oh, the focus isn't there. Right here, you can tell that there's some writing with a day code, things like that are on the sensor, black and writing. You just want to be sure that you turn that away to where it's just silver. There's no writing. That's the portion that you want to place against the contact here, so as to not cause a barrier for the voltage to get to the sensor. Then you just simply plug that in. And the LEL sensor has two contacts, one on either side, that you put into the two contacts here. So the sensors are lined up. At this point, what I'd like to discuss is the life expectancy of these sensors. Oxygen is no more than 2 years. The CO and H2S sensor, due to electrochemical, are about 4 years. The combustible sensor, since it's not electrochemical, can last a long time, so there really is no life expectancy on that. So at this point, with all the sensors replaced, you put your retainer, line it back over, and then you push down until it snaps, and your Then screw in the 2 screws using your Phillips screwdriver, and the GX 2001 is ready for use.